I recently did a video showing you leaf cutting, and I'm going to follow it up. And I also had some very interesting comments. A number of viewers asked, how late can you continue leaf cutting? It's now the 26th, or is it 25th of July, and it's almost the end of July. So is it too late to leaf cut? It is not too late. Now these trees looking so nice, look at it, beautiful new leaves. All these are new leaves, and this was cut exactly a month ago. I didn't do all of them because I didn't have the time to do it, but there are still some leaves on the nursery on our trees. Look at this one. This is badly scorched because we weren't meticulous with the watering. As we say on this nursery, there are thousands of trees, and it's quite easy to neglect one or two of them. So all these leaves which are damaged have to be leaf cut. So let me show you again what I'm going to do, and I'll give you a few tips and tricks. By the way, I'm using a lavalier mic. A lot of people ask me to use a microphone. Let's see if it stops the plane noise. Planes are flying directly over my head, and I hope it cuts that noise out. We shall see. Now, as I said, there are all sorts of little tips and tricks to do when I leaf cut. First of all, you must be wondering why I'm standing next to this bench. Because I stand when I work, you can put it on the table and work, but because we are standing on the nursery, I find that this height, waist height, is a very handy or useful height to cut the trees. If I go to a lower bench where it is much lower, when it is low like this, it is not so easy to work on. So all these little tips or tricks help me, and I want to pass this on to you. So let me show you how I will proceed to leaf cut some of these trees. Let's put some of these aside. I'll do 2 trees, and then that should reinforce the learning process. So this is one that needs to be leaf cut, and you can see how badly burnt they are. The reason why maple leaves burn easily is because the surface area is so big, and because you need water to pump through all these leaves, and if you miss the watering only once or twice on a hot day, this can happen. So it's not all. Out of about maybe, I would say we have easily 800 or 900 maples at the moment on display here, and of those, about, I would say, 15 or 20 of them have been burnt like this. So that's not a bad percentage. Okay, so what do I do? Some of the tricks. Now, rather than go and cut each leaf on its own, which you can do if you're a hobbyist, you can easily do that, one at a time. These seeds, by the way, I'm going to leave because they will set seed and I can use it for sowing. What I do, rather than cut one leaf at a time, I grab bunches of leaves because, as I said, we've got so many trees. It's very difficult to take your time and do one leaf at a time. So I grab a bunch of about 8 or 9 leaves and cut all of them off in one go. So rather than cut one leaf, I've cut about 8 or 9 in one snip of the scissors. So where I can, I will grab leaves together and do them. Even if it's 2 leaves, or here I've grabbed 3 leaves. So that shortens the process. Okay, if there's one, there's no where you can just do several. Okay, I've cut there about 4 or 5 leaves. So if you do little shortcuts like this, it won't take time to do it. I have some people who come to the nursery, and when I see them work, they take their time. No harm in taking their time, but if you're in a commercial environment, we have to work fast. So this is one way of working fast. You see, I've grabbed 4 leaves there. 4 leaves have come off. Again, 4 or 6 leaves. Remind you that we are only taking the petiole off. That means we leave the leaf stalk. The leaf stalk, that's called the petiole. We leave that on, and that will eventually drop off when the new leaves come. Many people think leaf cutting is just taking a bit of the leaf like that. You can do it, but it's not so effective. You have to take the complete leaf off at the petiole. Petiole is spelled P-E-T-E-O-L, I think, petiole, but you know what I mean. So again, here are several leaves. Grab bunches of leaves, cut them off. Then a whole bunch of leaves there, cut the whole lot off. It's very satisfying when you take all these leaves off and you see the new leaves emerging. It's almost like a miracle. So we always say that you're making the tree work twice as hard. That means in one season they're producing 2 crops of leaves. I've known people who have leaf cut twice in the summer, so they've got not 2 but 3 crops of leaves. The first one and then 2 subsequent crops of leaves. This is only a, I would say, not even a medium-sized tree. How is it? It's about 14 or 15 inches long. If you have a specimen which is 70 to 90 centimeter tall, you have to contend with a lot of leaves. Also, you might get a situation, if you look closely here, some dead branches there. Many people are concerned about dead branches, but that is the habit of maples. They tend to lose twigs and branches during the year. So this is quite normal for maples to do. So don't worry if you get the odd little shoot dying. So that one is leaf cut like that. Now let me quickly do another large one. Now this is one done, so let's take another one. So this one, can you see what a lot of leaves there are on this? And again, people ask, why can't I just do a few leaves? If you do a few leaves, I find from experience, it's not so effective because those few leaves will continue to produce the food for the trees and it won't make the tree work to produce new crop of leaves. So you have to, for best results, remove every single leaf. So again, 2 leaves, 2 leaves. See, I take an opportunity to prune the branches in the right direction. That is growing inwards. I don't want that. So take that completely off. Let it grow in the correct direction. Also, a lot of congestion there. We'll take some of these congested branches. So I'm taking the opportunity to structure the tree. Like this branch is growing in the wrong direction inwards. I don't want it inwards, so I take that one off. Of course, when a tree is completely covered in foliage, you don't always see some of the faults that there are. So leaf cutting gives you a good opportunity to correct some of the faults. Like that one, I think is too much. We don't need so many. We take that off. Clean lines, outward pointing shoots and buds. Many people ask me, should maples be wired or can they be wired? We do wire them very lightly just to keep the branches from springing upwards. If they're springing directly upwards, we put wire to make them grow slightly horizontal. But apart from that, you don't wire them in the same way that you would do a juniper or a pine. So the wiring is quite different for maples. In fact, we produce a lot of maples by not wiring at all. So that was the front done. Again, 3 leaves together, 2 leaves together. That's going in the wrong direction. Some people pluck it. You remember I did a video about 3 years ago when I called a tree the chicken plucker tree. So you can do that, but it's a bit vicious, I would say. It's not so effective. If you have a very large tree with thousands and thousands of branches, you can do that. But for smaller trees like this, I prefer to cut them individually with scissors. And if you are of an inquiring mind, I would suggest you try all sorts of experiments. For instance, why don't you cut half the leaves off on one side of the tree and see what happens? All these little experiments make growing bonsai quite interesting because you're always trying out new things. That's how I did most of my learning, not from following what other people do, but by experimenting and learning what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So that is that one done. I left a few odd leaves, I must take them all off. And we will follow the progress again. So within a space of a few minutes, we managed to do, I noticed that there's again a dead twig here, there's a dead twig there, and this one is dead there. How do you know that it's dead? Because it's brown like that. If it's alive, it's green underneath. So that's the test. So that is also dead. So that's how we leaf prune this tree. So that's what we do with all of these. Uh, while I'm here, the trees that we often leaf prune are these edible fig, Ficus carica. Because edible figs have very large leaves like this. Look at how large the leaves are. You see, they're all very large leaves. You can do a leaf cutting, and I guarantee you, you will get a smaller crop of leaves. Also, I don't have the heart to prune the tips, but you really should prune the tips to keep it in check. But I propagate from the tips, so nothing is ever wasted. Like that one, I would prune there, and then I would make a cutting from this. So with figs, they grow very easily. Olive trees also, they grow from cuttings easily, so olives are good for taking cuttings. What else can I show you while I'm here? Also here, look at this fig here. They sucker from the base. You don't want that because it spoils shape. So if you break it from there, you get a ready-made plant at the base. Use a sharp knife and cut it from there. You'll find roots in that pot. So that's what we do with those ones. So I hope this little exercise in leaf pruning, late summer leaf pruning, will give you some confidence to do it. So I will now move on to something else. While we're here, let's do one final one. These are pomegranate with a twisted trunk. And because this is spoiling the shape, I'm going to prune these shoots off at the base, like so. And then I've got more cuttings. Remember that with pomegranates, if you want them to flower, don't prune the long shoots off. If you keep pruning the long shoots off, you don't get flowers. So just leave some of the long shoots if you want flowers. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this one. So I started pruning this large, not a garden pine, it is in fact a bonsai. Look at it. It's every bit 6 foot tall because I'm 5'7". So this 6 foot high tree. You notice that I pruned this half, but I haven't pruned this half. And this is all the pruning that I did last evening. You see all these branches and twigs. So what I do with a tree like this, we keep growing it till they get big, but during the year you will get dead shoots and branches. So whatever is dead, we take out. Because a big tree like that, nothing ever is perfect, but you will get as the new shoots come, the old branches sometimes die. So you've just got to keep it clean. But the main thing to do is to tip the ends of the shoots. So this is what I've done. Many people are confused with pines. If you just do that, taking the tips out, it will force bud back further into the wood. Now this side has been done. Now let me show you this side. You see, this side has not been done. So again, basically a triangular shape. So that is out of the frame. So let's take it off. So I can take it up to about there. And then these shoots, again, all this business of pulling each candle out one at a time. When you work in a commercial nursery, we don't do that. Maybe with some of the specimen trees you might, but when you're pruning these trees, which are just large bonsai, you just go around and take the tips off. That's what I do. What you mustn't do is to prune it back to, supposing this has been pruned. If I take it back to there without any green, that would die there. So like this twig, if I cut it there, it won't break from there, that will die. So you always have to leave a bit of green at the ends. So again, there's some dead twigs. Take that off. If they can be made into gins, I can leave them for making gin. Gin, not the drink, but the dead wood. So it's really cleaning the tree. But I always do, as I do with most other bonsai projects, is just concentrate on the outline. Just on the outline. So you notice I'm using my Felco secateurs. You can also use the trimming scissors. That is also very effective. Whichever you find more useful. So you see again, it's just taking the tips off. Because the candles have already grown and I didn't prune them off. So let me show you this length here, which is almost 2 inches, was this year's candle. I can cut up to half or take it back to there. I can even take it completely off, provided there's green below that. Many people don't believe me when I tell them that by doing this you get bud back. So all this growth has occurred from taking the tips out. If I did it more meticulously, I would get more bud back. The same applies to our trees that we grow in the field. I will show you our garden trees. I haven't pruned them this year, but I will have to prune it again. So looking at this tree again, it's quite congested at the top. So there are dead bits because it's so congested. Sometimes you have to take some of them off. I'll not forget my visit to Taiwan, where I was really amazed at the size of bonsai they do. Pines and junipers of this size, this height, is par for the course. That means it is quite normal. It is not out of the extraordinary. Okay, this one, okay, I can keep that. So if we come around the side, you see all these long shoots here. We can take these off. So again, I'm looking for a few dead twigs. Anything that's dangling too much, I would take it off. Crossing branches, I can take off. People are always amazed that I grow trees of this size in the UK, and they think they never sell. They do sell because we have customers who do like big trees, especially if they have a large garden. And many of my customers have their own gardeners. Can you imagine? Their own gardeners. So they can lift these heavy trees as well. If you were on your own, it might be more difficult. But where there's a will, there's a way, as they say. So you can see these long shoots. Now this is this year's growth. I'm going to prune it into last year's growth because it's growing out of the shape, you see. But as I say, as long as you leave the green, that's fine. And after pruning, I'm going to feed it heavily, meaning that I will throw handfuls of fertilizer on the tree. You can use the Japanese fertilizer. We use Naruko. Sometimes we use BioGold, but BioGold I usually keep for the more expensive trees. Or you can just buy ordinary tree fertilizer. Whichever country you're in, if you ask around in commercial nurseries, they use commercial tree fertilizer. And as long as it's a fertilizer, it will do the tree good. So the general principle is if you take the tips out, it prevents them becoming long. So these long branches were all candles at some stage. So if we look at it from the front again, we will see, you see, I'm trying to create space between the branches. Now this one I can wire and keep like this if I wanted to. This is spoiling the pad. If I didn't want that, I can get rid of it. I think I can get rid of it because I want to create a space between that. So off it comes over there, and I can make a gin feature with that. So I've got a space there. I only very lightly wire these large garden pines. So that is the pine pruned for this year. And by the autumn, I will follow this project up again, and I will show you how it is back budding. That means you will get lots of shoots on those branches. And if I can move on to some ordinary pine bonsai, I will show you what we do, and it's exactly the same. So we'll move to another place. Butterfly sucking the honey from the heather. So this is a large Caledonian pine, and you can see how meticulous the needles are. See, these are all the new candles which have grown, and this we haven't pruned at all this year because we pruned it last year. And because we pruned it last year, you can see on the twigs how some of these are new buds growing there. That one is a new bud. So that will form another little twig there. So when a pine is grown well, every single twig has been wired. And let's look at another one here. This is another pine. You can see what we did earlier in the year. We took the center bit out, so 2 new buds have come from there. So we took the center out and we took that center out, so there are more buds coming out from there. So this is what happens. If it's not too late, I can still do this. I can take that out. I can take that out, and you'll get further bud back over there. So again, to show you in close detail, like these new buds, because we took that candle out, this formed another bud there. So this is how the bud develops by taking the tips out. This is a very good example here. I don't know whether the camera can take the detail. That's a new bud there. And these are new buds there, tiny buds there. So by taking the tips out, you get bud back. So this system works. So you think that it is being crude, just cutting the tips out, but that is how we get the density in pines. If I feel this is too much, I take that out. So this is a very major bonsai. This has since been sold to a customer, and I now just keep it in good condition for that customer. So this is how we deal with the pines. If we look at the black pines, again, if it's in shape, I don't do anything. If I feel it's getting out of shape, I just take half the candle out like that to maintain the shape, and you get the bud back. So just treat it like a deciduous tree almost. By taking the tips out, it causes more density and more ramification. So that is a lesson in keeping your pines pruned during the summer. So it's not only in spring, in the middle of summer, we keep pruning the tips of the candles, or which have become shoots, we take those out. So I hope you've learned from that bit.